voluntary interaction. So if people want to be safe and whatever most folks do, and they think they can't maybe handle themselves for whatever reason, or they have a high-risk occupation or whatever, like they can contract that out, and there could be different services set up. So like earlier this year, I went on a quick cop block tour and I stopped in Detroit and met this dude named Dale Brown, and he, recognized, what he saw was in the mid-90s, like the Detroit PD, these folks who subsist on money taken from others under the claims of protecting them, of like never responding when called, and just being apathetic and not encouraging people to like take a more proactive self-defense or whatever approach. But so he said he started with a rifle and a dog, and he started this company called the Threat Measurement Center. So it's sort of like the Guardian Angels monetized. So he now has like a big facility, and he has 500 business clients and 1,000 homes that are like upscale. And then with that extra revenue, he's able to do a lot of volunteer stuff. Like he and his folks used to ride with truckers that were getting truck jacked or whatever, and they stay with like ladies who some guy maybe was like making threats against. They might stay with the lady with a rifle and sort of make sure nothing happens, and things like that. But a lot of just patrols and things. But anyway, so this is an example of this good being supplied voluntarily, and it could be definitely done elsewhere. And there's a lot of potential. So we'll see where it goes.
Right.
It's starting.
And I think there's a lot of proof of that in videos that we've all shot, where cops will tell us, well, I do this for the paycheck, or I have to, this is my job, I'm just doing my job, and it's my opinion, until you can effectively say, okay, well, this could be your job right here. Come over here. No more marijuana arrests, no more victimless crimes. You could actually provide a decent good or service, and for whatever pay. And so I think that when that point happens, when a few of these officers step away from the blue line and say, all right, I'll try that. I don't know how far we are from that, but I don't think we'll see much change in the police accountability. Eroding the police state would probably be the best term, because it probably won't end it. It'll just chip it down, and we can highlight how ineffective it is, and hopefully get some of those peak changes where you turn some Leos to become private businessmen instead of tools for the government.
The fellow in Detroit, when he first started his business, did he mention to you anything about harassment from the police department for what he was doing?
So the question was, did Dale Brown, when he started his outfit in Detroit, have any negative interaction with the police because of his endeavors? And I don't know, initially he said that he was received with, abrasiveness, I would say, from most of the folks employed there. But he said there was some real key folks, and with their assistance, he now has a weekly class to train Leos, that's been run by this Michigan State Patrol employee for a decade, but essentially on like ways not to be gun dependent and to diffuse situation, and essentially to not, I don't know, he's a real good guy. But yeah, so anyway, he has a good aspect on that, I guess I would say.
I think that when it comes to looking for market solutions to law enforcement or security, defense, I think that's really important, that if we're going to move to a stateless or to a policeless society, that we don't neglect the people who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford defense, like the homeless and the indigent. And we should start thinking about ways that we as a community can support the people who are most victimized by the police, the ones without money and without resources. Because until we can prove that, one, we can do a better job than the municipal police for the rich, but also for the ones that they target, then I think that it'll be really hard for us to get over the hurdle with some people.
In my local town of Lansing, Michigan, about a year and a half ago, the fair citizens of Lansing voted in a property tax increase of about $250 to $350 a year per household. And I thought to myself at the time, it was supposed the property tax increase was for police money, because they were low on they were having to lay off officers and things like that. I thought to myself, well, $250, $350, that's about the price of a shotgun. You could buy each family in the city a shotgun for that same money, and what would that do to crime? Just a comment.
Sure. Good point.
I've managed in my town to get a slight reputation for being the person you call when like your boyfriend's beating the crap out of you, or you want to move out of your house. somebody to make sure that nothing's gonna happen to you and your boyfriend's not gonna, or your girlfriend even is not gonna set your shit on fire when you leave or stuff like that. And I go take video camera with me, and if need be, call the cops. I tell them I've never had to do it. Just my presence there and having a camera and being intimidating or whatever, just saying I'm coming here to make sure that nothing happens. It's like I turn it as immediate, right? And that's worked out quite well. It's not I don't charge anybody.
Right, and
I
that's how
just
I
get
feel.
phone calls from women who need help, and I go.
Yeah, that's how I feel about like what Antonio touched on. Like one hand would wash the other essentially. Like if you end the police state, you know, that would go down in like some middle class, poor, whatever people would one of two things. One, they would either receive a little bit of the blanket from those who are protecting and securing themselves because, you know, anyone who's open carrying this room, we're all getting a little bit of security out of that, whether I'm open carrying myself or not. So if my neighbors got surveillance systems and stuff like that, and even if I don't, I'm going to gain some sort of security from that. And also without the police state, which primary focus is like victimless crimes, beating up on the weak people, you know, not all that money, like this gentleman had mentioned, is wasted there, and so these poor people might not be as poor or have much better jobs, like in the drug trade or something.
And in our neighborhood, we have it's called the COP, the Citizens on Patrol. And when I first moved in there and saw the signs, I was like, this is going to be so bad. But it's just old ladies that walk their dogs and have each other's phone numbers, and they're like, we know who does drugs in the neighborhood, we don't care. That's not what we're here for. People are breaking into people's houses, and people that aren't supposed to be in the neighborhood creeping around people's backyards. That's the stuff we're after. So I go to their little meetings every month, and like at first they looked at me a little weird, but now they, you know, are cool with me, and I go on my little patrol once, you know, a day. I take my little 20-minute walk, and I'm on the schedule and everything. So even that I think is awesome little. I mean, they call it the COP. So, and I don't see cops in our neighborhood very often. I live in Baltimore. So.
Cops used to be peace officers. At what point do you guys think they made the change from being peace officers to law enforcement?
They've been slave catching, they've been killers since the beginning. A cop is a pig, and honestly, they got to recognize that. They know after 3 years that they are part of the problem. Violence is part of the problem, they perpetrate that stuff. And so that's just my opinion, but like, we're trying to find ways not to call them, we don't want to deal with them. We want them to stop hurting people. But the fact is that even we're out there trying to stop major misconduct from happening, but every police interaction where these guys are being bullies are having bad impacts on people's lives. So, I don't know, I just, you know, in Oakland, I mean, we had 5 vehicles shot from the house. Not a cop came, and you want to know why? Because people don't call the cops, you know what I mean? Because they don't believe that they can come to help. They have no faith in them, so. I like the ideas that you guys are talking about, and a lot of people in the town obviously take care of themselves. So, yeah, I don't know, maybe that's one part, but definitely like we need to stop relying on them for things that we can take care of ourselves. If you have a community, get with it, you know, and then look after other people, you know, that really need help too. So, I don't know, it's like cop watching, like, yeah, it's good for us to know our rights. It's good to like know what to do when you stop, but you know, the bigger thing is how can you actually like change, you know, start making impact. And like I said, I'm not worried about changing them, but I'm worried about seeing you and you know, people walking away knowing that they can do something. So, you know, at the end of the day, if you see something, you should be doing something. That's my opinion. If you really care about people and you're really trying to make the world a better place, if you see something, you need to videotape it. If you're really about it and you really want to do it, you need to line up with other people. You need to get yourself safe so you're not being isolated. You know, because it's going to be a battle then. I don't, when's it going to end? You guys know? Because it's been a long time. Like I said, I don't think the police were ever good. So.
I agree with Jacob, and he's been at this for 13 years, a lot longer than I've been at it. And I think rhetoric matters. You know, if we're going to change society, we got to change the way people look at the cops. And I would much rather call them pigs than peace officers, and it may make some of them upset, but the peace officers, it's a contradiction, right? And it gives them the ability to act like, oh, well, if we're doing our job right, then we're really not that dangerous to the populace. And it's just not true. The police were founded, I mean, the original role of the police in this country was to track down slaves. The Texas Rangers were to kill Indians. Like, let's not forget where they really came from.
Yeah, so I got a couple comments. I don't agree with calling the police names. I don't think that furthers a conversation with them. I think that having conversations is really important. And if someone's not listening to you because you've called them a name, that's going to hinder that.
I love what you guys do. I think it's incredible. I think you guys make a big difference.
Well,
Yeah.
I agree with what you said, Jacob, is that, you can't be isolated. And I think that's the whole point of the Free State Project, is to give people the opportunity to not be isolated, to get together in the same community. And as far as changing people's minds about the police, I think some people hold contradictory views. Like you were saying, you're in jail with guys, and I was too, who believe that they deserve to be punished because they got caught for having some drugs or something like that. On the other hand, you could talk to them about how bad cops are, and they're like, oh yeah, fucking cops, blah, blah, blah. So, like, they hold these contradictory viewpoints. I think that if we can popularize the ideas of liberty and police accountability and the things that we're talking about by having a concentration of people in one area, then you'll start to see those things change. Example, I just received an email a few days ago at the News at Free Keene email list, which goes out to a bunch of our bloggers at freekeene.com. The person writing it claimed to be a Cheshire County law enforcement officer. Now, I haven't met with this person yet, but it is my intention to do so. He claims to be a liberty-oriented person. He said he's one of those guys that got into policing because he wanted to change the system from the inside. And, he's just learned that it hasn't been that way, and they've been fucking with him with a divorce and an alimony situation or whatever, and he's just sick and tired of it. And he's feeling like he might want to come out of the closet, so to speak. And I don't think we would have had that contact had we not been, together and doing something visible and showing this person that he would have support were he to want to come out. And of course the question is, how many other people are like him inside this system? I mean, not all of them are thugs. I mean, some of them are just good people who are doing the wrong thing.
But they all back each other. And, yeah.
Maybe that's because they're scared. Maybe because the good guys are scared of the thugs.
They're working out.
And so if you're in an area like Keene or Manchester, where in Keene you've got 40 cops, in Manchester there's 200. I mean, that's the uniformed officers in the area. That's all we're talking about. Versus Oakland, I don't know how many cops you've got in Oakland, but I bet you it's 1,000 or 2 or 3 or something like that. I know Austin, I checked 1,600 last I looked, and Oswego wanted to increase it to 1,900. So when you're dealing with numbers, once you get to the point where the activists outnumber the police, everything's going to change.
They bring more police.
Yeah, but they can only get so much tax money out of people at any given moment. So there's a limit.
And that's where, if that would happen, that's where the differences that we're discussing here. I mean, I think it's all effective. And sadly, because I've been on both, I've told a judge and a cop both to piss off and hadn't done the best activism and ended up in jail for it, but it was real. It was an emotional response to them caging friends of mine, like good, close, people I loved. And so it was an emotional reaction, so it was real. I don't mind, doing it. If it's real, I don't mind letting the police know, like through conversation, that it's real, or that, when you sat in front of the car, I was screaming at cops like 2 feet from their face. And I know that's probably not the best thing for the movement. But that's the best thing that I felt at the time, was letting the guy know that I don't appreciate this, and I think you're a fucking jerk. And maybe the conversation resonates with some, and maybe the guy's like, man, I was a fucking jerk today.
Well, I've said things like that.
Fitting more when he tackles Derek,
I think it's, I just want to say, my position is a stance. It's not when I'm going out and watching the police, I am a hostage negotiator. I am trying to get that person free. There's no space for ridiculing people. All the cops know me by my name. We talk. So, my point is that I am uncompromising in a position that I don't think that that we can recruit police officers to turn in cops. We got cops coming forward about their participation in shootings. We have stuff happening, and there are people there to support it. But we're not trying to change them. And I don't know, I guess in our case it's a little bit different. Like, I think you guys actually could, the numbers, it makes sense. Just the numbers.
I'd echo what Ian said. You're trying to share an idea, essentially. Like, the issue is not necessarily like, yes, if this person beats the hell out of somebody and they happen to wear a badge, they're still as accountable, responsible for their actions as anybody else. But the issue is that they claim a legitimate right, and they're still that's the real issue. Until people walk away from allowing this group of folks to take money from them and whatever, then that institution's always going to exist, and then people are going to be in those institutions that can't ever operate as the lofty ideals put forth are. So, what I guess I'm trying to say is if you make a blanket statement, you say all of you who happen to wear this costume are pigs, like it may deter some of them from being more open to ideas, and until like that happens, you know, it's their institutions based on fear. You know, without us, there's going to be chaos, and if we can do things, you know, like Lauren's doing, and just like work with folks in our areas and show there's not a demand for these people, and they are, you know, the folks who continue to be active in the institution are continue to be aggressive. They're held accountable as would anybody else would be, you know. I mean,
I think you can still tell somebody they were wrong and tell them how you feel about
Right.
their actions without saying, you know, you're a pig. If I'm going to walk up to a cop on the street in Keene, I'm going to say, hey Kyle, not hey pig, because I know their name. Like you said, they know your name. But in a town with 400 officers, it's going to be a lot harder to know all the names of the police than one with 40 or 4 or something like that.
You know,